Great. Let's go ahead and get started from the bottom. I think that I forgot to add a comment on this last week. I was out sick for a little bit last week, so kind of messed with everything. But I think this is Rolf is asking probably pretty fairly, like, okay, cool, you asked for a proof of concept. What do you mean by proof of concept? Um, I think we need to see what kind of lift it is or it takes to either just use Bard or whatever it is that we decided. Um, yeah, I think it's I don't know. I think we want to know what the lift is like, is what the that boils down to. How hard is it to move things over? Um, all sorts of stuff. Uh, okay. On to propose following every Ubuntu LTS release. This one is well, I don't know. I don't have a lot of feedback for these. I think that it's one of those things where I think that that my I think that the idea is correct. I just don't know necessarily how 100% how we would support it, right? Like I think that frankly, Michael, I'm in the same camp as you. Is looks good to me. Like I like everything about the idea. It just feels like it's not as free as I would hope it is, especially based on like what we have to do to maintain dependencies. And I think that that's like the really difficult, tricky part of it all.
Yeah,
The,
it's just the work. The work part is the main question.
Yeah.
if we restructure according to the other RFC the stacks, then it's going to be a little bit easier once we will not have to create new repos. So,
I don't know. Like, frankly, in my opinion, the easiest thing to do supporting all the stacks is just making the stacks. Making the stacks is the easy part. I mean, it's like a lot of repos, and there's like some overhead where you have to monitor it, but that's the easy part. The hard part is like the matrix explosion that it causes with like integration testing, right? Like what do we integration test? What's our default? Do we have to integration test every stack that we have? Do we just want to integration test a subsection of the integration test that we have with every stack and thoroughly test with whatever the latest is or whatever we define as default? How many artifacts do we support, right? Like so in the case where we have to build the artifact, how many of those do we support on how many versions? Do we support only like I don't know, like do we support like everything for a default stack, but then when do we phase out supporting an older build of a stack? I think that that's like the really difficult part is like the actual like going in and doing it with the implementation build packs is I think the hardest part.
I think those are some good questions to get into the discussion there. Like certainly like do we have to run the integration testing on every single stack? Or is it like fine to do it on one flavor and that's good enough? Like that would be a good thing to agree
Uh,
on.
yeah,
Similarly for all those other things, because yeah, I kind of agree that like, you know, there it's a good question, right? Like maybe it's some smaller set of testing we run on all stacks and like you do sub you know then you only pick one the main all of the integration tests just happens on one of them or something, right?
Yeah. So what I guess I guess what I need to do is I need to because I only skim this, so I need to go back through and be like, is there a support policy? Because I think our support policy is the most important part. Because if the support policy like I don't know the hard part is right like how quickly do we switch over to a new stack and deprecate fully supporting the other stack, and how do we actually go about deprecating it? Because like heaven forbid we do like I wouldn't want to do something like version lining or something like that where we're like these are like this is the, Node.js, 3.2.1 dash Ubuntu GME. That, yeah, I really don't want to do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so I just need to and maybe this is what Dan is talking about here. So I need to actually go through and verify and read this. Been low on time. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for that. And then finally, propose manage project status. I think that there is some deeper discussion happening in the steering committee. I think that there's rumbling about the kind of things that are going to be open source supported and the amount of buy-in that companies have in the open source. I don't want to get too specific because it's not necessarily my place to talk about, I guess, internal business for other companies. But yeah, I think that there's some discussion that we're having in the steering committee, and I think that we're going to continue to discuss doing this managing project status, but also potentially going up to the Cloud Foundry TOC and talking about getting promotion inside the Cloud Foundry ecosystem for picking up Buildpack support and sort of trying to promote people to come and work and maintain the Buildpacks. At least that is my understanding.
So when you say TOC, that was like the foundation TOC?
Yeah, so like I don't know. It might be either the CFF or the CFTOC. I am not entirely
Okay.
100% sure. I'd have to go back and scroll through some messages. But I don't know if y'all saw based on the emails that you got from the uh mailing group, but we also have acquired a new community manager, someone to work on some community stuff for us, help promote things, that sort of thing. Specific for I don't know if it's specific to Paketo, but part of his work is on Paketo. So that is who set up this shiny new Zoom room for us.
Okay.
We also, I guess actually, I'll save that for updates. Any other questions or anything like that on any of the RFCs? I guess I can go into proposed multi-arc, but once again, this feels borderline abandoned. I need to just message. I need to like at Jericho and be like, we should close this out, and maybe someone else spin up something that
Yeah,
maybe
because
is more active.
work is going on, but
regardless of it, yeah.
but it's not necessarily in line or with that actual RFC. So
All right. Um, any other questions on any of these other RFCs? Great. Let's hop into CMB updates and questions. I don't have any upstream CMB updates. Does anyone else? No. In that case, then
Yep.
project that.
A little.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Upstream stuff. I mean, I've been chatting with them. Geez, just before Christmas, I started looking into some stuff that I thought was macOS only behavior that was a bit weird with Podman. And it turns out, after much investigation, it's actually a spec issue with lifecycle.
You love to hear it.
Suffice to say, it's probably not a good idea to do a multi-arch build on platforms 0.10 or 0.11. That's the takeaway from this. If you find that you're performing a multi-arch build on platform 0.10 or 0.11, expect there to be issues. Now, that's not so much of a problem as you think it would be, because the platform spec is now at 0.13, and Pack will always choose the highest level that it can, and Paketo's builder images generally claim support for higher levels. However, that's not always going to be the case, because it depends on which platform you're running your build on at any given point. And if a platform ever selects 0.10 or 0.11, and we've got a multi-arch run image, then you get into the situation where the platform, the lifecycle, will rewrite the image reference for the run image during the build to become the SHA reference of the platform-specific architecture image rather than the SHA image of the manifest that contains everything else. This is a problem with Docker and Podman because when you do an image pull using Docker or Podman of a multi-arch run image, it will store it locally under the SHA ID of the manifest, the combined manifest. But if you ask it to also pull the SHA ID of the platform specific, then you get a separate entry in your local daemon. So this is the problem, that if you run a multi-arch build at 0.10 or 0.11, you're expected to pull the run image before it gets to the export phase so that it's available for the export to layer the application onto, but you won't know the SHA reference that you're supposed to have pulled for the run image before the exporter runs. And if it's running Creator, where it runs all of the steps in one phase, there's no time for you to ever do this. If you're doing it multi-phase, then your platform has the opportunity to step in just before export and reread the analyze.toml, collect the updated SHA reference, do an image pull, and then proceed. But yes, it's a bit of a mess. I'm chatting with Natalie when she gets back, basically, to solve that, because she's out on parental leave at the moment.
So in
We
terms of
don't
the
think
work
it's
we're
too important.
doing,
What?
what does that, in terms of the work we're doing, what does that mean? Like, will we be using something greater than 11 by default, or?
Yes, if you're building with Pack, or if you're building it, so the choice of which platform level is used for any given build is selected by the platform itself.
Okay.
A
Okay,
builder
so like
image
current builds
declares a
with Pack,
list.
right?
Yeah, what we could do to make this safer from a Paketo point of view is remove 0.10 and 0.11 from the list of supported platforms for our multi-arch builders. Which will avoid this problem ever coming up and therefore force all platforms to choose different tooling. But that feels wrong because it's not Paketo's fault. You know, I mean, this is very much a lifecycle fault. The problem was that the multi-arch support within the spec was added at the same time all of this was happening, and some of the implications weren't caught, and this is one of them.
So for us,
So if you're
is it
interested
really
from
just
0.
be aware and don't do anything, or like?
Well, just keep an eye out. If we see like problem reports coming in, if you see issues raised where people are saying, I'm running this build and it's complaining that it can't export, and the current, it's compounded by another lifecycle bug, which means that instead of actually telling you, I couldn't find the image that I'm supposed to be layering this onto, you haven't pulled it yet, this was a requirement, why haven't you done this? You get an error that says unable to locate SHA, top layer SHA for an image. Because there's a bug in lifecycle that after it's pulled the image, or after it starts to get the image, it fails to check that it succeeded. So it proceeds on to the next part, which is get the top level SHA hash for that image, and then that all goes horribly, horribly wrong. And that's the error that comes out today from Exporter. So if you ever see a message come out that says, let me see if I can pull this while I'm here. I've got this written down. If it comes back, oh no, that's not good. Oh, here we go. Where'd it go? Get run image top layer SHA. That's the one. If you get an error come back with the message get run image top layer SHA, what it's actually telling you is that your run image isn't in the daemon while you're performing the build. This only affects daemon builds as well, which is another good thing. Yeah, there's like a subset of a subset here. It's a daemon builds of multi-arch images at platform 0.10 and 0.11, which is a fantastic little window. But obviously, I've written a test case now that's got a suite that's trying to drive all the matrix versions using GitHub Actions. I'm sure GitHub love me at this point. But it's discovering things like this that I was consistently getting failures coming out at 0.10 and 0.11 that go away at 12. And they go away at 12 because there's a new flag that's added to not the exporter. There's the phase just before that. I can't remember the name. There's a new flag that's added to the phase before that tells it that this is a multi-arch build and this is the image to use. And then instead of using the SHA of the platform specific hash, it uses the ID of the image in the daemon that's already there, which is great. So basically there's an acknowledgement that the problem happened and it was been fixed, but it's only fixed from platform 0.12 onwards. And unfortunately, we can't force that to happen easily.
What do you mean daemon builds?
Right, okay, so if you do a build with, you can specify whether the build all happens inside the daemon or whether it happens using the layers on a remote registry. And this is a Buildpacks option when doing a build as to whether you end up, from a technical point of view, it's whether or not we mount the Docker daemon or the socket into the containers or not. Obviously we have to run a build on a daemon because we've got the builder image, and the builder image is itself a container that we need to spin up and perform our builds with. But the way that some of these builds are done, if you're doing a daemon build, is you mount the socket into the container, and then the life cycle will talk to the socket directly to get bits and pieces done. And that's called a daemon build. I forget what Pack calls it in their stuff, but as far as life cycle is concerned, it's when you pass -daemon to the life cycle phases.
Is this something that Pack does while it builds?
Yep, Pack does all this behind the scenes. You don't see any of it.
Okay.
Right, but I guess if we're using Pack, unless we're specifying an option, it won't use the daemon side.
I think it's if in Pack you get out of daemon mode by specifying your target reference as a fully qualified registry image name, and then specifying -publish or something like that.
Okay. So I thought this one was only for publishing it on a registry. I didn't know that it also builds it differently. If you put the publish flag and you also specify for image name, the name of the registry that you want to publish.
Let me see if I can get to Pack and get to the CLI.
Because I think we, in the builds cost us, there was some cases where we had to add a registry, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I remember, I built it with the registry because when you build a multi-arc image, you cannot publish to the daemon. Only by publishing to a registry, you can successfully generate a multi-arc image. And but
maybe it's something related to this.
But in order to, I don't remember how do I generate the .md files. Anyway, but yeah. Anyway. So my question is like, if we can avoid just by publishing it on a registry, I think it's good.
Yeah, if you're building in registry mode, then you're not building, the image never ends up in your daemon. It's built directly against the remote registry. So, in registry mode, obviously we've got the builder image in the daemon because you're running a container that's based off of it, which is performing your build for you. But as it creates the output image, that's created directly to the target registry. Registry builds are great in the one hand because you don't need to mount the Docker socket into the container, which Pack does for you. Which makes the build a lot more secure. But on the downside, after you've performed a registry build, you have to pull the image back to your daemon again if you want to use it.
Yes, yes, we pull it, but I think on the implementation we do. I'm not remember, but we push it. I think we push it immediately to another registry, something like that. I don't remember, but not like,
because if you build it with a daemon, then the image ends up in your daemon, and then you have to push it to somewhere else unless you've specified -publish.
yes.
Anyways, but I think -publish is one of the things that triggers registry mode in Pack, and -docker host is one of the things that will lead towards daemon mode in Pack. Looking at the docs on this,
we are safe by using just as publish.
Yeah, you're probably bypassing daemon mode. You'll be able to see if you look in the logs. If you see that it's mounting up the Docker socket into the container, then you're running a daemon build.
Okay, just writing it out, not forgetting.
Yeah.
That it sockets on the daemon, you said? That it,
Yeah, if you see, you'll see the logs talking about where the Docker logs talking about where it mounted in the Docker socket if it did, and it only needs to mount that in if it's running a daemon build. The Docker socket doesn't need it to be. Docker socket does not need to be mounted to the build container when you're running a registry build.
Great.
Which makes it, which is what's the good thing, because it makes it a little bit more secure then, because obviously if your build container has access to the Docker socket and it's not set up correctly, then your build container can take over your host, which is not a great plan.
Yeah.
Most people don't like that idea.
Okay. Thanks. Interesting.
Awesome. Thank you for the update.
That yeah, it took quite a while to dig into and figure out because of the masking error on the front that gave the wrong thing. Ended up having to instrument lifecycle to add all my own debug to it and then inject that into my own builder and then use that with GitHub, because the problem only happened for me on GitHub reliably every time. I'd seen this error come up on Linux once every 2-3 weeks and I never could figure out why. But GitHub would do it every single time. So I ended up having to set up this whole infrastructure just to create the test case so that GitHub could recreate the problem every time and then finally nailed down where it was. I'm very happy now. I'm not very happy because there's still a bug that we haven't fixed, but it's better than it was because I understand what's causing it now, which is great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
Next up, are there any other CMB updates? Sorry, I guess I should close that out properly. Next up, project updates. The only major project update is that Paketo and Paketo community have been moved into the Cloud Foundry, Greater Cloud Foundry org. We are no longer like a standalone org. We're now like underneath the, I guess, Enterprise Cloud Foundry org. So our GitHub Actions minutes have just ticked up a lot, and our package storage, like our large package storage, has also increased. If that is something that y'all are looking to take advantage of. So
yeah, I guess I was kind of aware that like they're making that easier for projects, I think, to have like an org and then have multiple groups within that. So
yeah.
Interesting.
I don't have any other project updates off the top of my head. Cool. Any open mic discussion topics or questions?
Yeah. So I mean, the previous time Michael said that we will open some PRs on GitHub config for supporting multi-arc on Buildpacks. I opened it like an hour ago, and so if you have time, just take a look. And also, I had to patch. It took me a while to create a PR on GitHub config because I had to patch Freezer and then also I had to patch OCam. So
I can take a look at both of those too. Freezer in particular, I can take a look at because that is there's no one to blame but myself for Freezer because I own that repo. But
yeah, that's another question. Should we move that repo under Paketo Buildpacks or
yeah, so that's an interesting question. Perhaps I think is the short answer. I might do it in the next couple of weeks.
I mean, it would be nice. It doesn't. I mean, unless there is a particular reason, yeah. So yeah, and on the Freezer and on OCam, feel free to do any suggestions because I have no prior experience committing into these ones. So feel free to suggest anything, whatever it is.
I'm surprised you even took a look at Freezer. Is free to be straightforward. Freezer is a project I put together in order to do some caching when we were just using bundles, and I was hoping that moving to images would go away. I think the reason we haven't done that quite yet is because there's like doing offline building. Like we don't actually publish an offline image anywhere. So you have to, if you want to do any offline work, you have to do the build yourself. I might suggest that we switch to some sort of hybrid method at some point so that we can reduce freezer overhead. But I don't know. Anyway, yes, I will take I will take a look at both of those things because freezer is janky. It's using like a on disk database that boots every time you load it by gobbing like basically a Go map into a file. It's a little jank. It's not the best thing that I probably could have done. But yeah.
I only touched the part of the caching and how to store the Buildpack that downloads and where to store the Buildpacks that download, just not something crazy. anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a look and we can continue this conversation on the PR.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Anything else? Great. Thanks all for coming. Oh, wait,
Bye.
sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say the only other thing is we should probably give these guys a heads up on the public part that we're allowed to talk about. What do you think, Michael?
I don't think we know much to say. So
Exactly. So there's not much more we can say at the moment, but I'll stick this link onto the thing, which is public, because that way I'm not risking talking about stuff that isn't public. But there you go. There's a nice little thing from Red Hat saying that they're going to be doing some stuff with their middleware and joining up with IBM on some of that. And just so you know, we're all still working on the stuff that we're working on. Don't worry
yeah,
if you hear
our assumption
otherwise.
is nothing really changes other than where we live. So
Yeah, exactly. We might need to start putting a different company name on the end of our signatures on the document. But other than that, yeah, we're hearing good things, but it's very early days. And as I'm sure you're aware with your recent Broadcom VMware integration experience, these things get sorted out as they figure them out. So
Yeah. Good luck and Godspeed to you.
no worries. Thank you very much. That's all I've got.
All right. In that case, I'll see y'all.
talk to everybody later.
Bye.